few minutes today to chat about how to choose a homeschool curriculum because that is probably, again, one of the top 5 questions that I've been getting from friends who are going to be homeschooling for the first time and who are a little overwhelmed by the vast world of curriculum options out there. Homeschooling has really exploded over the last few years, and there are more options than there ever used to be. And it's awesome. It can also be a little overwhelming. So I want to talk to you about kind of the 3 categories of choices that you have, and then some factors to take into consideration when you're making your choice. So first of all, let me just go ahead and start with what most veteran homeschoolers will advise you to do if you are a first-time homeschooler getting started, and especially if you've been in the public school system and this is your first time to homeschool and you've already been, your child has already been in public school. So the number one advice that veteran homeschoolers give is to actually not buy a curriculum at first, but to take some time to de-school. And what deschooling is just kind of taking a break from anything that looks like public school and learning how to learn outside of that. Especially if your kids have been in public school, they're going to have a very specific view of what school is. And homeschooling does not at all have to look like that. And in fact, homeschooling, when you try to do public school at home, when you try to recreate that type of learning environment, that's not always the most efficient or effective way of homeschooling. It's not always a good match with your child's learning style. There are so many ways to learn and so many ways to educate at home. And so sometimes taking some time to just de-school, letting go of all of that, not worrying about meeting certain standards or certain check boxes, but simply taking a break from that and learning through life, through playing games with your kids, through watching documentaries, through reading books, going on field trips, going to the library. All of those things can be so great for helping you embrace the freedom and the flexibility of homeschooling. That's, again, the number one advice that veteran homeschool moms will give. It is not what I did when I started. And I will tell you what I did because I actually don't regret ignoring that advice. It's good advice, and I feel like it's important for me to give you that advice, and yet I ignored it and I don't regret it. Okay, so option 1, de-school, no curriculum. Option 2 is the opposite of that, and it's what I did, and it is to buy what we call a box curriculum. A box curriculum is kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's where you go with a company and you just plug in your child's grade level. They send you a box with all of your subjects, okay? Math, language, spelling, reading, writing, history, science, everything all in a box, and a teacher's manual to tell you how to teach your year. That is what I did when we first started. I bought my Father's World curriculum. When we first started homeschooling, it was not planned. It was a very spur of the moment decision. My son was in a great public school. He has special needs, and we had adopted him from foster care. And when anyone would ask us, are you ever going to homeschool him? I would say, well, of course not. I don't know how to teach him. I don't have a special education degree. Absolutely not. So we were driving at that point 2 hours round trip every day to take him to school, which seems crazy now, but at the time I really had not considered homeschooling him. He was having some health issues with his genetic disorder, and we realized that we had to bring him home to work on his health. So from pretty much our first conversation about homeschooling to bringing him home, withdrawing him, and starting to homeschool, all of that happened in about 48 hours. It was very, very quick. So I really just got online, not knowing anything, and ordered the first box curriculum that looked fun to me, which was at the time was My Father's World. And I did not regret that at all. Even though it turns out that that curriculum is not a great match for us and it's not something that we have stuck with, that was not only an education for my son, but it was an education for me. Getting a teacher's manual that told me exactly how to plan my day, how to plan my week, teach this subject this many times, do this, do this art project, say this. It walks you through and holds your hand and tells you exactly how to homeschool. And I needed that. I needed someone holding my hand. I needed someone helping me through this. I did not want to mess it up. Within a couple of months, I was a much more confident teacher. I did understand my son's learning style better. I understood my teaching style better. And I was able to start tweaking that curriculum to fit us better, since it was not, an exact match fit. And no box curriculum will be, no curriculum will be. But it was a great learning experience for me. It introduced me to different educational philosophies within homeschooling. It introduced me to Charlotte Mason philosophy, which has by far been the greatest influence on the way that I homeschool my children. And I never regretted buying a box curriculum. I think it is a great option if you are a new homeschooler who feels overwhelmed and you want something holding your hand and telling you what to do every day. Not everybody does. And, I do think that deschooling can be a great option, but it wasn't the right option for me, and it's not going to be the right option for everyone. Box curriculum, there is no shame in that. There is no shame in wanting for someone to plan your year for you and tell you what to do and give you the resources to make it happen. We had a really fun year that year. Okay, so that's what I did. Those two things are like on the opposite ends of the spectrum, no curriculum, deschool, unschool, box curriculum, everything lined out for you. In the middle, you have what I do now and what probably most homeschoolers that I know do. And that's where you kind of do an eclectic, tailor-made year by choosing different curriculum options for each subject. Again, there are so many choices out there now, and a lot of them are written by homeschool moms who have put together unit studies for their children or put together a history course for their children, and now they've made these available for purchase. There are excellent options out there. Some of them are quite inexpensive and they rely on library books. So you may buy, for example, last year I bought Build Your Library, and it has, here's your manual and here's your list and here's the books that you're going to need. And I would just go source those books on my own and kind of follow her schedule. So there are options like that. There's options like The Good and the Beautiful, which is what we currently use for language arts, and now they've added a lot of other subjects as well. So there are just so many options. Don't get overwhelmed, but if you want to put together a very custom-made plan for your child, you can do that by choosing the exact resources that are going to be the best fit. Both of my sons, they're on different math curriculums. They have different learning styles. So instead of, again, doing a box option for them, I take, my one child who needs a lot of math manipulatives and very hands-on, and my other child who responds really well to instruction on a screen. And so he's doing an online math course, and my other child, we're pulling out the manipulatives and not doing worksheets and just learning math conceptually, So there's, again, a lot of options. Factors to consider are going to be, number one, what is your child's learning style? I've mentioned, my sons have very different ones. And you may not think that you know this, but you probably do if you really think about it. Is your child the child who's always curled up with a book? If so, then a literary-based education, like a Charlotte Mason style, might be the perfect fit. Is your child always playing with Legos and doing messy art projects? Then they're probably going to want a very experiential, hands-on learning experience. For my one child, he's the literary, so we do a lot of literature-based learning. My other child is very hands-on and physical, so we do a lot of, activities and making models and different things that help him really understand in a different way. And if you know your kids, like you know your kids better than anyone. You know how they learn, you know how they play, what their preference is. So you can look for curriculum options that really fit that learning style. You also need to consider, what is your teaching style? And again, you might not think that you know this at this point, but if you really think about yourself, you probably do. Are you the mom who loves playing kids or playing games with your kids? Then you might be a game schooler where you like to play math games and geography games and learn all of these different things through games. Are you the mom who loves reading stories to your kids? That's me. You might be a literary-based education mom. You know, for me, I know that I do not enjoy science experiments. They are necessary and we will do them, but I have to plan and prep for them in advance. Again, I have to do science on Mondays when we are fresh, and I need a science curriculum that does not require me to do a ton of prep work, and that also has really great books to go along with it so that I can be excited about it too. If you're not excited about teaching, then your kids are not going to be excited about learning. One of the best things about homeschooling is learning together. So consider your kids, but also consider yourself. If you are looking at a curriculum and you think it looks boring, then it is not the right curriculum for you. On the other hand, if you look at it and you think, wow, I would really enjoy doing that with my kids, then that's one to really consider. Okay, so your teaching style, your kids' learning style. You also need to think about, what are the goals for your homeschool? So for some of you, you have maybe always wanted to try homeschooling, and this gives you the perfect opportunity. Your goals might look different than someone who is really like, I am only going to homeschool for a year until things hopefully get back to normal, and then we are going back to public school. You know, someone who is doing this to just get through the year, you're going to want to make sure that whatever you choose matches up and aligns with public school standards so that you're keeping your child on track to enter back in. Whereas if you know that you really actually want to keep doing this, you don't have to worry about that so much, and you can embrace different learning styles. You can embrace a scope and sequence that works for you and your family. So that's something else to keep in mind. Okay, and finally, you do need to consider budget. There are vast differences in the cost of certain curriculums. So box curriculums do tend to be a pricier option. They're not all pricier, but they tend to lean a little bit on the pricey side. Whereas putting together something yourself can be a little more efficient. And then obviously relying on library books and resources, etc., can be a less expensive way to go. But that is something that we all have to be very careful about this year. And that would be my final piece of advice, is to look at what resources do you know you're going to have available and what might not be available. Right now, I don't have the library access that I'm used to. So I've not been able to rely on the library as much, and we're not doing field trips as much, and I don't know what that will end up looking like 6 months from now. So I have tried to plan a school year that we can accomplish in a very rich way, even if things don't get back to normal as quickly as I want for them to. I miss my library, y'all. I miss it really bad. And I really want that to get back to normal. But I'm having to plan for maybe not having library access. So look at your area, look at what's been put into place. And that is something that there are a few curriculums out there that would be very hard to accomplish on a budget without the library. So just take a look at that and keep that in mind when you're looking. Is this going to have everything you need, or are you going to be needing to go to the library quite often? If you want to buy all of the books that the curriculum requires, what is that going to look like budget-wise? Price it out, check it out online and see, is that something that fits within your budget? Is that doable, or is it not doable? So that's one reason why I do see more people going with the box curriculum this year, because it's just, you have everything that you need and it's there in a box. So even though we're not doing that, hey, there is no shame in that. There is no shame in a box curriculum, okay? So those are my thoughts on curriculum. I hope they're helpful. I've had a couple other questions from friends that I'm going to try to get to here in the next week. As always, you can leave me a comment with your questions. You can send me a message, shoot me an email, and we'll keep chatting. Thanks. Bye-bye.